Hi, I'm Gordon from Camera Labs, and this is the Fujifilm X100V, a high-end compact camera aimed at travel and street photographers, featuring a 26 megapixel APS-C sensor, a fixed 23mm f2 lens, a hybrid viewfinder, tilting touchscreen, and 4K video, all packed into a retro-styled weatherproof body. Announced in February 2020, it's the fifth model in the series and costs £1,299 or $1,399 in either silver or black. I had a very quick chance to try one out, so in this preview I'll tell you what's new and give you my first impressions. I'll then follow this up with an in-depth field test that I'll link to here. At first glance, the X100V may look like the previous models, but features a raft of upgrades. First are a bunch of body enhancements, starting with a new aluminium top plate which, with new dials, has a smoother and less shiny finish. Now it's all personal of course, but placed next to the older models, I reckon the X100V looks and feels much classier. Meanwhile, eagle-eyed Fuji fans may also notice the line that runs along the front is now at the same height on both sides of the lens. Careful attention to detail is throughout the camera design. There's also a thoughtful tweak to the outer edge of the shutter dial, which you'd previously need to hold up in order to adjust the ISO value. Now it lifts up and stays in place, allowing you to easily turn it before clicking it back down again to lock the ISO in position. Round the back, the joypad cross keys, like many new Fujifilm cameras, have been dispensed with, leaving the joystick for most operations. Now some owners may miss them, but it does make for a less cluttered rear panel for you to rest your thumb. Perhaps the biggest surprise though is the screen, which not only gains long overdue touch sensitivity, but also becomes the first on an X100 body that can tilt vertically, up by about 90 degrees or down by about 45. I love having this flexibility for composing at high or low angles, but it normally comes at the cost of a thicker body. Now impressively, Fujifilm has developed a very thin screen that becomes completely flush with the rear surface, so much so you may not even notice it can be angled out. So the articulation is there if you want it, but essentially becomes invisible if you don't. And while vloggers will lament its inability to face forward, it would have involved a thicker mechanism, spoiling the body's essence. I think Fujifilm's made the right choice here. Like previous models, the X100V sports a similar viewfinder to the current X Pro, with optical, electronic or hybrid views. The optical rangefinder style view is bigger than before, while the electronic view enjoys a more detailed 3.69 million dot panel. Plus there's the hybrid option, which overlays a portion of the electronic panel over the corner of the optical view to aid with focusing and colour previews. Like the X Pro series, it's seriously clever stuff, and while I mostly use the EVF on earlier models, I am becoming much more fond of the optical view. In terms of photo quality, the X100V unsurprisingly features Fujifilm's latest X-Trans 4 sensor and X Processor 4, equipping it with 26 megapixels, a broad array of confident phase detector autofocus points, 11 frames per second burst shooting or 20 frames per second with the electronic shutter, and gratifyingly it also inherits the latest classic negative film simulation from the X Pro 3, as well as the monochrome adjustments and the recent Eterna and Acros simulations. The sensor and processor also mean the X100V gains 4K video over its predecessors, available at 24 to 30p and for clips for up to 10 minutes. Meanwhile, 1080 clips can last up to 15 minutes, and there's now also high-speed 1080 video at 120 frames per second. In terms of connectivity, there's a 2.5mm remote jack that doubles as a microphone input. Yeah, you're going to probably need an adapter, but we've got used to that. A new USB-C port that can be used for charging and power delivery or adapted as a headphone output, while the micro HDMI can output 10-bit video. Take that, X Pro 3. So far so good, but the two biggest upgrades are still to come. First is the lens, which may share the same 23mm f2 specification of the previous four models, so that's roughly 35mm equivalent, but finally employs a new optical design. The earlier lens was frankly struggling with the latest sensors, so Fujifilm's redesigned it for greater sharpness and higher contrast, while extending the built-in ND filter to 4 stops, although annoyingly this only seems to work for photos and not video. Hopefully this can be fixed. Early tests are certainly looking promising and the focusing speed feels faster than before, but I'll make a proper test when I have more time with a final production sample. I certainly hope it's sharper at closer range, as this was a personal bugbear with the previous models. Sadly, the camera does remain unstabilised though. I wish the lens had been optically stabilised, especially for video. The second major upgrade is the body, which is now thankfully weatherproofed, making it a much more practical option for all-round travel and street photography in all conditions. There is, however, one caveat. Since the lens extends a little within its barrel, this is a vulnerable part of the body. In order to fully seal the camera, you'll need to screw on the optional adapter ring, plus a filter of your choice, like say a basic UV. These do make it a little bit thicker, so it's up to you to decide if you want the slimmest body or to sacrifice a little thickness for full sealing. It seems a reasonable compromise. I've always been fond of the X100 series, loving the concept of a large APS-C sensor in a fairly compact retro-style body, but while the refinements made over the first 4 generations have certainly seen it improve, I still felt the old lens let it down, and any premium body at this price aimed at street and travel should really be weather sealed. With the X100V, Fujifilm's resolved both of those issues, while also adding 4K video, the latest photo quality and processing from the X Pro 3, a screen that can tilt without compromising the body thickness, and with the bonus of a new finish that really does give it a premium look and feel. Now, I do wish the new lens had optical stabilization, and I really hope the ND filter can be fixed for video use, but otherwise there's really very little to complain about if you're happy with the large sensor, fixed lens concept. It's taken 5 generations, but the X100V has finally evolved into the ultimate travel and street camera that it always aspired to be. That's it for this brief first looks video. If you found any of it useful, please do subscribe, and if you really like any of my work, you can support me with a coffee donation. Cheers! Let me know what you think of the X100V in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.